All right. No, I'm absolutely enjoying it. All right. So this is our night 5 of these. And you have 3 bottles. You have 2 larger bottles and 1 that's a half pour. And so we're going to jump right in and start with that bottle number 1. And just like we always do, start looking at it, the color, the nose. What do you guys think?
James, sorry I missed it. How many bottles tonight?
2 large ones and a half bottle.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. What do you guys think from the color? What are we getting off of that based on some of the other colors we've looked at?
Well, it's very light for one.
Younger.
It's light, so we're thinking younger because less time in the barrel, or it could be a lighter char in the barrel. One of the two. What are you getting on the nose? Vanilla?
I'm getting a little praline, maybe or pecan.
Yeah, that could be from the wood. And I will tell you guys, this is a special bottle. We just found out this is a special bottle.
Light.
Very light.
Hard fruit.
Hard fruit?
Peachy.
I don't think it's a high.
It's like dried apricot.
Dried apricot. All right.
Oh yeah, dried apricot, definitely.
Right, not fresh, but dried.
Yeah, dried, definitely.
It's very light. It doesn't have much of a bite. There's a little bit of bite. I think it's more like a rye bite than I think the high proof. I don't think it's a high proof though. What?
Yeah.
No, pick Jeff. What do you think proof? I mean, isn't drinking like a high proof?
90, mid 90s, I would guess. But I do get a little burn.
The mouthfeel. I mean, I'm looking at this. I don't see a lot of legs.
It's peppery.
The mouth feels light and easy. It's not thick. It's not very oily.
You do get a nice hit of vanilla though on the finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Ian picked up was a little vanilla on that. Do we like?
I like.
All right. So are we thinking just a wag, single malt, bourbon, wheat, rye? It's tricky, right? It doesn't drink like.
I don't think it's any.
I'm not picking up a lot of rye, if any, myself.
Okay. So not a rye. Sweetness of a bourbon. I'm not really picking up 51% corn. I'm seeing Sam and Marcia shaking their heads now. Zach, what do you think, bud?
I don't know.
You don't know.
We've stumped it.
It's a curve.
I want to say it tastes like something I had Saturday, but I can't remember which one.
There's so many, like there aren't that many to choose from.
No. I mean, if you're like us and we had 4 tasting sheets worth of stuff, you know.
It's gonna get a green apple taste at the end too.
So some fruity. We're all picking up some fruity, whether it's apricots, apples. All right.
Almost like, yeah, the bite reminds me of like a almost habanero, not that spicy, but the fruity spice because it's kind of a fruity pepper.
Okay. Well, are you guys ready to find out who this is?
Sure.
Yes.
Because we stumped you on what it is. So let's talk about who it might be. I'm trying to get my.
It's gonna be a rye.
What's that?
Is it gonna be a rye?
Is it going to be a rye? Zach, you're going to be really disappointed. I'm really disappointed in you. This is Treatio. And we have,
and I'm leaving.
You're fired.
You're fired.
Yeah. Damn, somebody lost their
Oh,
job.
this is the Finley one. This is the
Hi
Shinley.
guys.
Zach might get a totem toast here in a little bit for his new job.
I don't get this one alive.
So let me introduce Lindsay. Lindsay is with Treaty Oak. She is, gosh, your title has changed so much since we've met. But
I'm the wearer of all the hats. So I am. I'm back in sales now. I do the Hill Country. Yep, representing. I got my scarf and my little earrings on because y'all can't see my shirts anyways. When I do these, I'm too short for the bar. The bar's really tall, so I was like, I'll just wear something comfortable. It's freezing back here. But this is my home bar. It's also decked out in Treaty Oak all the time anyways. But yeah, I was doing virtual cocktail classes and education pieces throughout the whole quarantine. So we just kind of left it set up. So, but yeah, I'm back in sales. So y'all probably, if y'all were there on Saturday, the early class, I was there for the Texas Whiskey Festival. But I'm all over the place. Got my etched glass as well. Thank you, Ken, courtesy of Ken. I just need to put in it. I was like, I'm so special, and then y'all have yours too. Never mind, I forgot this is where I got it from. So
hey, Lindsay, they don't have Treaty Oak glasses.
We don't.
That's true. So, I do. I have my name and Treaty Oak. So
yeah.
It's from wearing all the hats. So basically what y'all were trying today, y'all tried the barrel 1267 at the Texas Whiskey Festival. That was our Earth Day release. If y'all were there on Saturday, if you were there on Friday, that was the wine rested one. So that's not what you had today. Today you had the 1268, which is the one right after 1267. On the rye barrels, they kind of all came to us at one time, and we just gave them chronological numbers with the order that we labeled them. So it really makes no rhyme or reason to what they're going to taste like. They're all very different. So the one that you tried is going to be a polar opposite from the way and it's a single barrel too. So that comes in not at 90 proof, it's at 100 proof on that one. We did proof that one down so it's not cast strength like the other single barrels are. And it'll be in the old glassware that says red-handed rye. That was because we had a halt on glass production during the middle of quarantine when they did their barrel select. But Total Wine and More has and Bee Cave has that single barrel select. So y'all were correct on a lot of these flavor profiles. The one that I get the most on this one is if you revisit that dip. I just like dipping the tip of my tongue on the very top of it. And you get this almost cherry pop to it. And then on the back end, you get an almond biscotti finish. It has that butter quality just from the longevity that it spent in the barrel up in Canada. So it didn't get a whole lot of movement until it got here to Texas. And then we gave it like a little shock treatment. So it was on this one, it's about the same amount of time. I want to say it's probably 1 year and about 5 months on that it was aged here in Texas. So it's just a little bit younger than the one that y'all tried at the Whiskey Festival. But still a delicious, delicious variety of the low rye. So when y'all were not picking up too much of a rye, it's because it is a low rye. It's only 53% instead of those high ryes. Most everything that was coming out of Shinley at that time was 85 to 95% rye or straight rye. So this was a really cool, just unique opportunity that we had. We partnered with a brokerage when they shuttered, and they are no longer making any juice. So once this juice is gone, it's gone forever. So that's why I wanted y'all to try something, even though it's our sourced bourbon program, just something that's truly unique. And I think it would be a fun project to try and recreate this, even though in Texas, we couldn't do that unless maybe if we buried it in the ground because it's just too hot here. But something to look forward to, and like doing a low rye versus a high rye or a straight rye. So
would distillery be crazy enough to bury a barrel in the ground?
We have a bunch of barrels buried in the ground. And we release them every October, November. It's our harvest series. I call it the graveyard series just because I thought it would be really cool if like Rob, Zach's brother, like came out of the ground and scared all the kids, like zombie style. but it's buried in the playscape underneath the sand pit or the sand whatever sandbox, not a pit. It's like, but before we put that, there wasn't the playground wasn't over there when we buried those. But yeah, if you dig deep enough, you might hit a barrel.
How do you know that next weekend everyone's going to be at Alice's restaurant and hitting the sandbox and digging?
I know. I expect y'all to come with your little buckets and little plastic shovels. Just like, I don't know, we're just building sand castles as adults. It'll be great.
You need to one day do a treasure map or something.
Agreed. So before we had our rick house, that was our proper rick house. We actually had, and Zach had seen this, his brother used to do it, but we had the barrels just sitting out in the middle of the field, and Rob would go out there and water them to keep them, moisturized, because the heat is so great that it just start leaking if you didn't do that. We just lose a lot to evaporation on our Ghost Hill and Day Drinker. And that's why you get those really dark tones where the rye is super light in color, and it actually pulled even more color the longer it sat here. So it was getting some more movement, even though they do use used barrels in Canada, that it pulled just a little bit, tiny bit more color. So you'll see a little bit of a variance in the regular rye and then the single barrel rye too, just because they're older juice.
So Lindsay, let me have you pause for half a second.
Yep.
We do have several people on here who are unfamiliar with treaty oak. So can we maybe roll back and tell a little bit about treaty oak, where you guys are at, and Ghost Hill, where that name came from, and maybe do the introduction of treaty oak to
Absolutely. So we're actually named after a almost 600-year-old tree in the downtown Austin. It's one of the congressional oaks that Stephen F. Austin signed the peace treaty with the Choctaw Indians to establish the boundary treaty of the city of Austin. It's also where we get our namesake for our Waterloo Gin line. That's the original name of Austin. Before it was Austin, it was called Waterloo. So that's why you see Waterloo Records, Waterloo Park, Waterloo Sparkling Water, Waterloo Gin. Like that's us too. We are out in Dripping Springs. We did start in Austin proper back in 2006, and then moved production out to Dripping Springs once they lifted the Dry County ban, allowing distilleries to actually have not just production, but also tasting rooms. And then we went above and beyond and have a full restaurant and 3 bars now. So it's definitely a destination distillery. We do have live music 3 days out of the week right now, Friday through Saturday, or it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Most musicians probably would love to play during the week, but we just don't have it because of our neighbors. We can't be loud all the time, but we are open Wednesday through Sunday right now. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's pretty much you get the property to yourself. You can go out there and have a nice dinner and chill, and it's nice and peaceful chilling out. Fridays and Saturdays get a little crazy. Party buses are starting to be a thing again. So if you like being around bachelorette parties and wine tour people, it's fun on Saturdays. So I don't miss working out there on Saturdays at all, but it was fun. I went out after the whiskey festival, and it was good to see it's getting back to full swing of things. There's plenty of room to spread out though if you're still trying to socially distance. So we are still doing table service for our meals, and then we do have any buildings you have to wear your mask in. Yeah, and so Alice's Restaurant is our barbecue restaurant. We plucked a bunch of people from Valentina's. So if you're a fan of Valentina's barbecue, we do have some of the family members of them working with us now. And Scott Fogel's our pit master. Highly recommend the Judgment plate. No judgment there. You can order it for 2 or 15. It's fine. It'll feed you all. Just leftovers are never a bad thing.
It's the chop burger. The chop burger is it.
Yeah, that one too. I just say the Judgment plate because you can try a little bit of everything. They're fantastic on the pit too. Yeah, so definitely come out and see us if y'all haven't been out there. We try and do things with the guild too. So if y'all come out as a group, we kind of take care of y'all in your own right. So definitely stick with James. he'll get you taken really good care of. And we do have cocktails on draft as well as in the lounge that are one-off. So if you like your old fashioned or Negronis made by hand, we have that as an option. We do have pre-made, all hand squeezed, fresh made simple syrups. Everything's fresh. We just put it on draft because we do have high volume out there too. So we don't want you waiting in line 8 hours to get one cocktail. So, yep.
It's a beautiful, beautiful ranch, and it's such a short drive to it. And this is one of the first distilleries that we've had on this series that we can actually talk about, a destination distillery where, you know, it's a day. You can go out there and eat a fantastic meal. The Rick House bar is it's a big old, most one just say it's like a pole barn, but you know, basically the sides
An
all
open air barn.
it's an open air barn. The sides open up, bar along one side. Then they have a nice tasting room where they'll actually do tasting flights and kind of walk you through the program of the different stuff. And I don't know if you can see behind me, but they got a lot of stuff. This isn't actually a bunch of different things. We have some of the holiday releases, the wine cast finishes, stuff like that. So really, you guys have in the whiskey line 3 primary products, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna have the Ghost Hill's our baby. That's our flagship bourbon. The namesake of that is from our ranch. It was a historic cattle ranch from the 1800s. We have a natural spring on the property, so naturally cows want to stop and drink there. So it just became a no-brainer for the cattle drivers going across the state. I feel like there's always been whiskey either being bootlegged or served out of there. We find random old bottles all the time on the property. Every time it rains, something new comes up. We used to have, he ended up working for us, but we called him the crazy metal detector guy. He's very into history, Jeremy, but he would go out there and find all these like belt hilts and spurs and things out in the field. So if you have a metal detector, I highly recommend bringing it. I mean, we get to keep it, but it's fun to find cool artifacts. They pop up every single time it rains. So lot of history running through that property. And then if you go down by the restaurant, there is a red concrete trough looking thing. And that was actually a horse trough before it was a plant holder. So we grow fresh mint in there now for cocktails, but it's where the horses used to link up to back in the day when people would bring their horses and cattle out. Beautiful property though, it is 28 acres, but that is the Ghost Hill namesake. We did a younger version of that just to have a little bit lighter drinkers so you don't act a fool in the middle of the day. That was for us, and meetings at 10 a.m. So this is a same mash build as the Ghost Hill. It's just going to be a little bit sweeter on the front end. It's more reminiscent of the White Dog. We do start with a sweeter White Dog than most Kentucky and Tennessee distilleries do, because we do lose so much to the angel share in that first year. So it's going to be 57% corn, 32% wheat, and 11% barley for both of these. And they're what's considered a wheated bourbon, which there's no rye in it. We are working on some ryes down the line and also a wheated rye. So that'll be a fun, just forget I said that, but a little fun surprise tasting down the line too. When we do have that. I tried it at 6 months. I know Zach has had it before too, and it's just delicious. So I'm really excited about that, because usually I don't like ryes, but I do like those slow ryes and then the half fun projects. So
Weeded are some of my favorite. I love the weeded ryes.
yeah.
But the day drinker is a younger one as well, because it's actually labeled on here aged at least 12 months. So it's definitely younger than the other ones.
It is, and that's why I said it's more reminiscent of our White Dog. So where our White Dog is it's like candy corn sweet, this is kettle corn. Oops, this one's kettle corn sweet, as opposed to the Ghost Hill that is not sweet at all. It smells sweet, but it's got more of a soft oak finish to it than like a candy corn kind of feel to it. You can taste the corn on it, but definitely the extra age spent in the barrel changes it night and day. And also we're doing the single barrel selects out at the distillery now too. So if you ever want to just try through about 8 barrels at a time, those are fun, and you do get a bottle with that too. So that's something down the line that if y'all want to do kind of your own picks and not have to go store pick and just buy it and try it when you get home, those are really cool. We just started doing those in the fall. So they fill up fast though.
Imagine a Treaty Oak Probst Guild barrel selection.
Yes.
Awesome.
We also decided that cocktails were bullshit during the middle of quarantine. So we decided to make an old fashioned ready to drink bottle, because we all got tired of making cocktails every single day. I did a lot of virtual cocktail classes, and let me tell you, what I was drinking after them was this, because it's well balanced, it's ready to drink. literally all it needs is ice and a mouth and you're good to go. It's got the simple syrup already in it. It's got aromatic Jack Ruby's bitters in it. And then it's also got orange emulsion. So it's like, just like you expressed an orange into your cocktail. I like adding it just so it looks like I actually made someone a cocktail if I'm making it, but I'll add a cherry and then an orange peel to it, but it does not need anything. And these come in a smaller 375 too. I call them pocket flasks or roadies, but they're very handy when you're camping or at the river, if pouring it in a Yeti, or I always recommend a bigger bottle. I wish we made them in gallon vats because I feel like sometimes you just need a gallon of old fashioned. They are really delicious though. So if y'all haven't tried those, they're $20 a bottle too. So it's, yeah, you get about 10 drinks for the price of not 10 drinks. So
Lindsay,
no old fashions. What's that?
You're in Texas. A 375 is called a boot flask. Just to let you know.
Boot flask. I call them roadies. They're pocket. They fit in your pocket perfectly.
Well, for those of us that don't have boots, we put them in a
I do have boots on, oddly enough, but they're not cowboy boots. The last one that y'all haven't tried yet, and it's been out the longest, is going to be our red-handed program. And I actually found, and I was just showing James and Cherie this, I found one of our very first renditions of that, not that long ago, surprising, but this was one that was bottled in Austin when we were still in Austin. But our red-handed series is really cool. It's kind of like collecting baseball cards, and I always seek to find them. It's weird how it worked that way when we did our bottle shift, is when we changed distilleries too. So it's kind of fun collecting all of them. So there's 4 iterations out there now, and we're about to go into the 5th one. The first one was MGP, and that's the original Ghost Hill one. I have the Love series when we did that for Valentine's Day. That was the original Ghost Hill label. So we've come a little bit of a way as far as marketing goes, but these are really cool. And we have little Easter eggs all over the bottles. They're kind of fun little things to find if you don't know about the Hanzoku that's behind me. You can't really see it, but James, did you have that?
Yep. Right here.
So if you're ever just randomly reading the bottle or looking at it, on the new bottles, it's going to be on the bottom of it. And that's just, it's basically resistance against convention is what it means, but like rebelling against conformity. So taking things, acknowledging tradition, appreciating that, and then doing it your own way. So that is Daniel to a T, and that is most of the people that work at Treaty Oak to a T. We acknowledge tradition, we acknowledge experience and taste and experimentation, and we're constantly turning that wheel to do something different and push the envelope all the time. So it doesn't ever just sit where it is. We do like the Ghost Hill where it's at, the Day Drinker is good where it's at, but we have about 1,000 other projects that we're still working on too. So there's always going to be something fun and new. So those distillery releases are really something fun to look forward to as well.
So red-handed, where's that name from?
So it's like caught you red-handed. It's not ours. So it's our source bourbon program. Sorry, I went on a tangent. The very first one was MGP. And then after that, we started partnering with other distilleries that were also doing grain to glass. It's just a fun practice. And then we get to trade barrels and try new stuff and partner with different people. The other one that we had before that was a blend. So it was OZ Tyler and Davis Valley. So 2 totally different states blended in as an 80-20 blend. So if you try one and it's different from another one, it's just because we partnered with a different distillery. The one that we currently have out there in most of the market, it's going to be in the new bottles too. I don't have the new bottles. Sorry, I only have the old bottles, but it's going to be in the same shape bottle as the screw cap ones, with almost like a salmon. It's not pink, it's a salmon label at the bottom. There, Zach has it. That's going to be Heaven Hill in that one. I call it our corny bourbon because it's very corn forward. It's 70% corn on that and about 21% rye. So there is a little pop of rye, but it actually feels more strong on the rye profile than our rye does to me. It is a different strain of rye, but it's really fun to build cocktails with that one. It's not my everyday sipper like the Ghost Hill is, but it's definitely been in a lot of my cocktail builds. So, oh, there we go. So there, It definitely does have that cured tobacco thing. I always say that to people, and I'm like, it's like if you walk into a tobacco plant, a farm, and it's that smell. That's what the taste of it is.
That's not like cigarettes. It's actually pleasant.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a lot more corn forward. Than
So
yeah.
is this bottle 2 our second taste? Is
No,
this
we
our-
have not. We have not opened bottles.
No,
We're,
that one's
we're-
a surprise. I'm just talking about our whiskey.
well, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and transition over. Any
Yeah.
questions on the whiskey at this point, guys? No. All right. So let's go ahead and look at. You guys have some other stuff. I mean, we're not going to jump into the rum and the other stuff yet, but you guys have Waterloo gin. You mentioned that already, and you heard earlier we've been talking about gin a lot, and it's opened some people's eyes to what's out there. So tell us a little bit about Waterloo.
So the Waterloo number 9 is our flagship gin. It is called number 9 because there is 9 botanicals in it. So that's kind of easy to remember that there's 9, but it's also the 9th recipe. So we went through a lot of distillates before we came back to the 9th one. I want to say it was, Phil said it's around 160 distillates. So a lot of gin flavor profiles, but we also did that with intention of revisiting those again. We're actually working on a Texas strength one right now, like a Navy strength gin. The same botanicals that are in the Waterloo 9. It's just they're all different balance of it. Instead of it being more ladder forward, it's got more anise forward to it, a little bit more coriander forward, and it's a higher proof. So it's at 114, where the Waterloo 9 is at 94 proof. So having said that, the Waterloo 9 definitely holds up in cocktails because it is a stronger proof, but it's well balanced to the point where you don't feel like you're drinking gin. Even though it does smell and taste like a gin, neat when you start building cocktails with it, it's just super fun to play around with, like a citrus note or a sugar note, and it just brings out those different botanicals that are in it. It is lavender forward, like I said, but there is also Texas pecan in it they come from San Saba Valley. And so those are local to Texas. That kind of is different than any other gin I've ever had. It rounds out that juniper punch to the throat that is synonymous with gin that most people don't like, that Christmas tree flavor. It kind of calms that down, having that butter quality to it with the pecan in it. It also has grapefruit zest in it that kind of separates that out from other gins. Most of them use lemon or orange. We used to use orange, but with the grapefruit, it kind of gets lost and you don't need it. It was just an extra step that we didn't need to do. So with in the pride of saving fruit, we decided to just go with the grapefruit zest on that. And it used to have 10 botanicals in it when I first started, but now we're down to the 9, and it's perfectly balanced, but easily one of my favorite gins. And it is one of the most awarded American gins. And we just won the best contemporary American gin in the World Gin Series in the UK, which is pretty awesome for a humble little distillery from Dripping Springs. No, it is a fantastic gin. So,
do you think about gin?
Pardon?
Do you think the British know anything about gin?
I think they might. They got it from the Dutch, though. It was Dutch strength is what that was for, and that was when it was Genevieve. Is the whole backstory on that. But with the gin and tonics, it actually helped when they were in the jungles, so they wouldn't get malaria. So that's why the gin increased in London was from the war. So.
All right, so bottle number 2.
Yes.
If you already poured it out, pour out bottle number 2.
This is my personal favorite spirit that we have. It's wildly different from anything that I've ever had before because it wasn't an intentional project. It was an accident that ended up being one of the best accidents out there. There was not a category for barrel-aged gin at the time when this happened. It was supposed to be rum going in the barrels. So after it went in, so with the rum, we used a single-use virgin barrel, just like we do with our rum and then our bourbon as well. Oh yeah, sorry, we started our company with rum too. So we've made a little bit of everything besides tequila and scotch. But it was supposed to be our barrel-aged rum going into the barrels. 4 barrels later, or so, I'm not sure how many Tyler actually did before he realized it was not rum going in there. It was gin. So we had to own that and live with it. And it went through some really weird flavor bombs throughout the process of that. And 2 was the magic number. So 2 years is how long it's aged. And that just happens to be the same amount of time we age our Ghost Hill, the regular Ghost Hill. So it does kind of pull a bourbon tone to it too. So it has the nose of a gin and then the finish of a bourbon. I call it the gateway gin because it like kind of links those 2 worlds that normally wouldn't be linked together. I make all kinds of different cocktails with it. You can do gin cocktails, you can do bourbon cocktails, you can make up your own. And I actually have one for y'all today. Once we talk through this a little bit more, I'll type it out for you guys so you can try and make it at home. But James, did you want to talk about anything before I go into that?
Do you want to talk about the water or the Yopon real quick?
Sure. So the Yopon was an intentional experiment. It wasn't actually an experiment. Phil's a tea drinker, and I call him the weed eater, but he's a forager, and he likes to just figure out different flavor profiles and from plants that indigenously grow around and are readily available. We were looking for sustainability on this particular project, and Yopon is in fact sustainable. It's a weed, but it is in the holly family, and it grows at the base of pine trees. So it kind of has a pine quality to it. But it is the only caffeinated plant that grows in North America, which is pretty cool that it's right around the corner from us in Bastrop, that we get that from Lost Pines Tea Company. It also is an Old Tom style gin, which means it's sweet. So there is wildflower Texas honey in it. And then there's also make root lime zest that we get from the valley, and it's lumpy lime. So as fun as it sounds to like zest a bunch of limes to make this, we painstakingly zest, the distillers painstakingly just sit there and zest by hand each of these little tiny limes. So a lot of love goes into this particular gin. It's pretty wild. It is a flavor that I've also never had before, and I feel like it's catching on in the bartending world right now, kind of like when elderflower stuff came out in St. Germain's. People are using it as a modifier and a main ingredient. I make margaritas with it all the time. It is delicious. If you want to play around with it, because it is sweet, you don't have to add a whole lot of sugar to it. But you can like do a really elevated cocktail or a very minimalistic cocktail, and they turn out really good. I really like pineapple gimlets with it. I did one last year called the Suit and Tie. And it has Thai basil infused simple syrup, chili powder, cayenne, and then lime juice in it. So it's a very simple, it was just kind of, I was looking for ingredients I had at home. I have a garden going in my yard, so not everybody has Thai basil, but you can use different stuff out of your yard or the refrigerator to create these like crazy cocktails that it's not that many ingredients. It's just one little thing changes the whole dynamic of it. So, and then plus it looked pretty. Basil's always nice to put as garnish too. Yeah, but that one is super fun to play with. If you haven't had it before, maybe we'll do one down the line with that one. Although now I've told you all the little key ingredients, so you'll probably be like, oh, that's funky and weird. That must be Yopon.
And to let you guys know, we are going to do a cocktail class with Lindsay and one other with Treaty Oak and Violet Crown. We're talking with Jessica.
Yeah, I want to do one with her marigold one because I have marigolds growing in the yard right now. So maybe I'll do a hybrid of both of them. Like we've been talking about that for a couple of years. So her stuff is amazing. I love Jessica so much. Her and her partner in crime are just wonderful people anyway. So definitely, and she is in the USBG, the bartenders like world. Like she is one of the best cocktail creators that I've ever met in my life. She's got a palate that's insane like Phil's. So
we're going to have both of them are going to be together doing an event for the Probst Guild on cocktails and how to do different cocktails. So keep your eye out. That'll be probably July, August, I think is when we're talking about doing that.
Yeah. I think, I was going to say August is perfect because it's hot and everybody wants to be inside anyways. And drinking. But yeah, I can do it from my pool. It'll be great. I'm just kidding. That's for after. Nobody wants to see that. I'm very albino. So what do y'all think of the antique?
You're inviting us over?
I do need to kill a lot of bottles. If you could only see what this place looks like right now, it's pretty embarrassing. Like, and it's just accumulation during quarantine. So.
You haven't seen our place.
I haven't, but I've seen before. Yes, it's organized right now. Mine's organized directly behind me, and that's about it.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think? I mean, this is a new gin that we're kind of introducing you guys to as an aged gin, and you guys asked when we did that event with Still Austin about aged gin, and I kind of blew the question off. But here is an aged gin. What do you guys think?
The nose is very pleasant.
So this is bottle 2.
Yes,
I taste ginger.
there is ginger in it. So it's the same botanicals in it as the Waterloo number 9. It just drinks wildly different. I wish I had the 2 of them so y'all could compare. I should have done that too instead of just the other one, but I almost blew that too. But yeah, so if you try them side by side, they are night and day different. So the Waterloo is like very light and very citrusy on the nose and on the palate, and then the antique almost pulls like these nutmeg and cinnamon tones out of the wood that like almost make you get into fall mode in your head. So it's really fun to make fall cocktails with it too. But the one I'm going to give y'all the recipe for is like an all year drinker. It's what I'm going to make one after.
It's like a holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get the mold.
That feel to it. Yeah. A little like wintry spice kind of.
I make one called Honey I'm Home for the holidays. That it's my version of a wassail because I'm part Swedish and English, and we always had wassail at everything. I'm not sure which background that comes from because that side of the family was Swedish and English. My Czech side just drank beer, a lot of it too, and whiskey. But my other side always had these fun, fancy drinks or Bristol cream sherry or whatever because they're from. It's just different. You get these hearty cocktails with that, or the hot cocktails. This one is amazing in any kind of those hot fall cocktails and winter Christmassy cocktails too. And it's also dark in color on the label. So it just puts you in that mindset of like, oh, it's winter, it's darker outside, even though in Texas, we don't really get that. It's still sunny and hot, but it puts you in the fall spirit with those tones. So yeah, it's got
Definitely
a black
has a holiday finish.
Yeah, it's got the black label on it as opposed to the bright blue that reminds me of like the blue sky here in Texas, and then the green that reminds me of the grass when everything's been raining and it's all luscious and everything outside. So
it also has a beautiful, I mean, it's really hard to see, but it's got this beautiful screen printed plant.
I have a little mini one. It comes in a little bottle too. That's a little tiny Waterloo 9. But so it has the juniper and it's the oak leaves are hugging it, like giving it a little bear hug on the back. And that's just to our roots of the treaty oak, even though we've kind of taken that name out of the Waterloo now. But then with our main ingredient is juniper. So it's kind of like whiskey has to be corn, 51% corn based. Gin is the same way with juniper. So.
Lindsay, you asked which one or what we liked or what we thought of the Waterloo.
Yeah.
And the antique. I have a bottle of both, and the Waterloo to me is I hate to say it, but to me just another gin. But that antique, I love that antique. I when I first tasted that up at y'all's place, I was amazed.
Yeah, it's a game changer, especially for people in the bourbon world. That's why I call it the gateway, because it definitely gets people into doing that. But it also set the path for people experimenting with gin and not just doing traditional London dry styles, Navy strength, or Old Tom styles, because those are the 3 predominant styles of gin that are out there. And that one just threw a whole loop in the whole gin world, like all of it. We just actually got a platinum award for it this year. So it's finally getting some traction as its own unique category, which is really, really awesome. In the gin world, because that's not the easiest world to make ripples in. It's been around for a hot minute, a very hot minute, and people are very, very set in their ways on gin. So the Waterloo, our expression of that, yes, while we do acknowledge that there's Texas botanicals in it, and it is very Texas centric to us, it is a traditional London dry style in base. So that's why the Yopon and then the antique are just fun things that we took it, we owned it, like that's us, like 100%. We're not mimicking anything else from that anybody else did. It's definitely I don't know, it's putting us on the map in the gin world for like the experimentation, but also the Waterloo 9 is making a lot of waves in its own right too. So it's been fun. I'm the gin head of our bourbon group too. So if y'all ever have any cocktail questions or things you just want to buzz me about, like I'm obsessed with our gin almost as much as the rum. So
And I'll tell you guys, you can on the Facebook page. Lindsay is a member of the Probst Guild, not just an ambassador. Zach is an ambassador for Treaty Oak. He's also a full-fledged member of the Probst Guild. And you can post questions for these guys at any point on the page. They answer right away. And unless she's
tag me in it.
yeah. So
I'm usually on the road. I'm not supposed to be typing, but I'm in the middle of nowhere half the time, so it gives me something to do. Besides look at
Text
beautiful scenery.
Speech to text.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm sure you guys are still enjoying this one, but to keep time mindful, we have another small bottle. It was a special bottle that Lindsay gave us. And it is so special. That's why you have like a 1 ounce sample of this. So I'm going to sip this down, and then we need to try this, which is this one. Yeah.
That doesn't look like a 1 ounce bottle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
RCL.
So they actually have a different cast strength on that one.
You know, ever since I was introduced to barrel aged gin, which
That's thick.
Antique was the first barrel aged gin I've ever tried. My first impression was it's a bourbon drinker's gin. Definitely. If you have always stated, I do not like gin, I do not like gin, I can almost guarantee that you would like a bourbon or a barrel aged gin.
Yeah.
Every barrel,
Which is why I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It turned me into a gin drinker. I actually went backwards when I first started at Treaty Oak. I tried that one first, and I'm like, well, that's delicious. What else do we have? And we only had the Waterloo at the time. So I was like, well, that's all right. That's cool. But this one, it blew my mind. And now I love the Waterloo 9 too. But at first it was kind of getting my feet wet again, getting back into the gin world, because I had a really horrible experience with one undisclosed company in London. So I was 14. I didn't know what I was doing. So
well, and it also works the other way. If you really love gin, but you don't necessarily like bourbon that much, like the barrel aged gin would be the perfect, you know.
I feel like a lot of people are afraid of dark spirits, not knowing why it's dark. It's not added color. It's not added flavor. It's just the char on the wood that's making it that dark color, and pulling those flavors and lactones and vanillins out of the wood the longer it sits in there. So time is definitely more on our side with the gins than it is with the bourbons. So where this one we have a couple that are getting into their 8-year-old birthdays that are going out as the single barrel. This is one of them. It is 104 proof, I believe, right?
Yeah.
On that one? Yeah.
Yep.
I gave them two different ones. So I believe this one is one of the older ones. It might be switched around, but I have one that's 4.5 years old.
This is 2014, July 29, 2014.
Okay, so it's close. Anyhow, it's from 2014, and that's pretty much when we started our gin series, actually, on that one. So we did the Waterloo came out in 2011. That's when we issued it or released it to the world. And then 2014, 13 is when we released it at the property, and then 14 to the general public and retail. And that one we kind of were allocating at first just because it does take 2 years to make, but the more we got on, like the more we liked it, the more it got popular and got traction out in the market in Austin. So I feel like a lot of people were either terrified of it or like all about it. So it was like not like black and white. There was no like gray area. Now it's like, it's definitely things people are seeking, and to get these single barrels too is really unique because you are getting it. It's out of the same barrel, but the proofs on there are very deceiving, kind of like the cast strength rise. it just gets better with age, and it doesn't, like some of them, because so there are a couple that are coming out that I would definitely love for you guys to try, but one of them's 151 proof. So the highest I've had on the antique gin is 147, and it was 4.5 years old, and it's delicious, but it definitely needs to be calmed down. But that's the whole proofing experience of like why we get those high proof. Yes. Like that.
If you want to try this, just let us know, because
Let us know. Yep.
we didn't have enough little bottles.
I want to say Skip Slicker in New Braunfels is taking on a wine rested one. We did this a couple years ago with the wine rested ones, and I thought we released most of it already, but a couple more barrels were found in the vaults that we sent a couple samples out. So as soon as they give us the green light, they'll probably have that, and it's definitely one to try. It is hot. It's really good though. It is 152 or 51 proof. And that's just regulated once they take it out of the barrel. We'll be able to give an exact proof on that, but it's in the 150 range. So if you're looking for something that's gonna pack a punch, that's definitely one to try. But y'all are trying a more mellow version of that. But I definitely would recommend, if he has enough for all of y'all to try, it's wildly different. Don't light anything flammable near you.
You can't take that you can't carry that one on a plane.
No.
Oh,
no,
wow.
it's explosive.
That's good.
This is one of those melts in your mouth kind of.
Oh, y'all should be jealous. I'm just saying right now.
Whatever.
Sorry, guys. I tried to get y'all enough.
don't
These two
even
were
have
already sold, and I was trying to get them to y'all samples before they sold out of the actual barrels themselves. But all of those went real fast because they are delicious. So, Ken, you're muted.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm talking to my girlfriend.
Oh, I thought you were talking to us. I was like, we can't hear you.
That's not your girlfriend. That's
Yeah,
your
My
fiance.
fiance, I'm sorry. She's always going to be my girl, though.
So we've been talking a lot here. Questions, comments, input. What do you guys think? Any questions for Lindsay?
Hey, James, real quick, I lost my internet when you were telling what the special bottle is.
So this is the Waterloo Gin. It's 7 years old at this point, and it's 104 proof. So it's cast strength, 104 proof, single barrel, 7 years old.
I'm typing, if I'm making a weird job of the hut face, I'm sorry. I'm typing out the recipe for the Love Child. So one of my favorite cocktails, and this is while I was running the Rick House bar, I got really bored with just pouring draft cocktails because I love making cocktails too. I'm a bartender. I was a moonlight bartender by trade. I worked in healthcare for 16 years, but I've always been a bartender. And so I was just playing around with what ingredients we had at the distillery and created the Love Child. So it is like, I call it that because it's like a whiskey sour and an old fashioned had a baby with gin. So that's what I'm typing in the recipe for. But I used ingredients that we had at the bar. At home, I would recommend getting a bottle of cherry herring liqueur or using the juice out of your Luxardo. I know everybody always has Luxardo juice at the end of your Luxardo, and I hate to waste $20 juice and cherries. So you can use that too. And it's just a bar spoon that you would use in that. So when I say bar spoon, it's like these little bar spoons, the little ones. You don't need a whole lot. It's just for a pop of cherry, and that melds really well with that cinnamon and nutmeg tone that comes off of the gin. And then the other one is simple syrup. I like to use the gum syrup from Liber & Co. just because it's a little bit thicker. But if you want to make your own at home, it's just 1-to-1 sugar to hot water ratio. If you want it more of a gum syrup, do 2-to-1. So do 2 ounces of sugar to 1 ounce of water, or 2 cups to 1 cup if you want to make a batch. Demerara is delicious too. It kind of changes the flavor profile of this particular drink, but it's really good with the antique gin as a base for
Lindsay,
your.
hold that one up again.
Pardon?
Hold
The
that one up
Demerara?
again.
Okay. So that's Liber & Co. is also a local company in Austin. They're kind of actually closer to you guys than they are to me. They're off of 183. They're home based, but they're in most liquor stores now as well. And I believe Total Wine and More has most of their line. So with that cocktail class, I'll probably use a lot of their stuff too, just because they make life really easy. So because you don't have to sit there and make your own passion fruit puree or orgeat or whatever like crazy ingredient that I'm doing. I can just be like, go here and buy this. It's so much easier. I actually think we should do on that cocktail class, we should do some tiki drinks too, and I can make them simple.
And we need to try and bring Liber into that cocktail class and have them there.
I can absolutely get Adam or Scott to do that. I work with them a lot. I have about 240 bottles of Liberco in my house right now too. So I might actually be able to send y'all some of the simple syrup as well.
Hey, between Forrest and you, I think we could probably get him in here.
Yeah.
Forrest over at Revolution.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to Adam on a pretty regular basis up until he had his baby, and now I talk to him like at least twice a month.
So, questions for Lindsay while she's typing up this recipe?
Bottle 3.
Sorry, you need Ango too for that. Sorry.
Special bottle, when and where, maybe.
That one is already sold out. It was at Skip's Liquor, but they're getting another one in. Actually, no, they still have a few bottles. Sorry. They still have a few bottles at Skip's in New Braunfels. And then I want to say Dallas. Pardon?
I'm heading to San Antonio on Saturday, so.
Oh yeah, Skip's. They just take exit. I think it's 190B.
They
I
got
was
more
just over
than-
there today.
They got more than one location, right?
Yes, but the one that has the antique gin is the one in San Marcos or New Braunfels.
Okay.
And Jeff, you're looking for the 104 proof cask.
Typing
And
right
then-
now.
Do y'all have it? Do y'all have it there at the distillery?
Not right now, but I'm working on doing a single barrel launch out there for the antique. I really want to do it for my birthday in September because that's my favorite spirit that we do. So I was like, y'all already sold my barrel 913, which I was pissed about, but because my birthday is 913. So I even signed it. But anyhow, so it's not there anymore. But yeah, so I'm hoping that we can do that when we do our anniversary party this year. Instead of just the rum, we can do an antique one too. That's one of the older ones. So working on it right now. So it's so fun. And I really want to get them to do, throw in one of the antiques on those single barrel picks too, just so people can try something different that they not necessarily wouldn't have tried before. So.
Can you go back and talk to us about that single barrel pick? So that's not a club pick. That's an individual barrel pick.
The 104 proof?
No, well, you were talking about doing a single barrel pick where they can actually walk away with a bottle.
Oh, for you guys, for the club or for the distillery release?
Either.
So the distillery release is kind of like what we did today for Earth Day. That would be like the rye that was released today was barrel 1267. We do these fun little single barrel projects, and we usually give y'all like a little bit of a notice on when we're going to do one of those, or kind of like a sneak peek of that it's coming. We don't disclose it until usually that day, so but it piques people's interest. So when you do see those kind of, oh, there's something fun going to be released at the distillery, it's usually one of the single barrels. We try and keep them at happy medium proof on it, so it won't be like 151 usually. But sometimes if it's just a really good pick, we will release those really high proof ones too. I know with the what was it? The Texas Whiskey Charles was like 128 on the Ghost Hill, right? And then like we did a Bloody Butcher. Let me show you that. That one was fun.
Whiskey one.
Is it still in the?
Probably no more.
Do y'all still have that little slide of the Bloody Butcher one?
Yes, I
It's
do.
just an old bottle, but this was a cool one. So if y'all are familiar with, I believe it's the Iron Root guys, they use a Bloody Butcher for their the one that won all the awards. So this was a fun project that's an heirloom grain series. We have a bunch of different stuff. We have a Oaxacan green going. We have a red, white, and blue series. I will probably, because we didn't get to release it last year for the 4th of July, we'll probably release it this year. So I would look out for that. But it's going to have a blue Hopi corn, winter red wheat, and then the Bloody Butcher in it. So One's a super fun little project that we're working on, but this Bloody Butcher is delicious. So if we do another release of that, I like basically have been siphoning off like little tiny pores because I love it so much. It was a lot sweeter than I thought it was going to be.
There it is. Sorry. There it is. Now that she's talking about it.
So it's this like bright red corn that when you do the mash for it, it looks like Pepto-Bismol when you're cooking it down. It's pretty gross looking. But it turns out obviously looking just like regular whiskey. It's almost got well, you can't really tell on that, but almost got a red hue to it a little bit on the whiskey side. A little bit more red tint to it than the Ghost Hill does, but it's just a sweet corn. It's delicious. So the mash bill on this one was 90% corn and 10% barley. And I feel like that was a solid build on that. It was very minimalistic, but very delicious too. So I do recommend if you can get your hands on a bottle of that, get it. It's really good. But yeah, we have all kinds of different distillery releases. So definitely keep your eyes peeled on that. Because they're only run at the distillery. Because you have to labeling through TTB and figuring out who gets what for the liquor stores. If you don't have a mass produced thing, or not mass produced, but small mass produced, yeah, he's collecting them all. I like it. So yeah. I'm not ashamed because I do work there, but every barrel pick that I do and help pick out, I have a bottle of it too. I'm like the first one to always buy it. So I'm like, I bought it first. But I just think it's fun to know and then revisit them and taste them side by side of like I did one with Le Vacher out in Dripping Springs. They were the first ones to pick out of the column still single barrels. So that was surprising because up until then, historically, most people wanted the stuff out of our pot still instead of the column still. Just flavor profile wasn't quite there yet. But this one that they picked out was 1169, and it is delicious. So I split that with Mad Rooster. So they have some in Kyle right across from Hay City store too. So if y'all are ever over there, grab a bottle of it. It is delicious. And it's the first column still out there for retail. And then, well, not retail, but restaurant and retail. So they split it so everybody could try it at their restaurant, but also go and buy a bottle as well, which was the first time we've done that. And it was pretty cool. So if y'all have any restaurants up there that you feel like would want to do that, let me know and we can definitely work it out. And as long as y'all are drinking it, they'll probably keep doing it.
So let me roll back because we, with every distillery we've talked to so far, we've talked a little bit about their stills. You guys have two. You have column and you have pot.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I know we're up against the clock, but I want to talk about this because we've done it at every other event.
You're good. So we installed our 30-foot column still a couple years ago in January. We closed down in the winter every year just to give us all a Christmas break, but also because it's usually historically cold and no one wants to hang out outside with us. So we decided to haul in this giant 30-foot still, kind of underestimated the size of it. We knew how tall it was, but we ended up cutting a hole in the top of the distillery and then dropping it in. So it was kind of like, it was terrifying. It was like watching playing Tetris with a really expensive piece of equipment when it was super windy outside. So with column stills, you basically get, I mean, those are what every distillery puts out there. They have the plates in them. We don't have all 30 plates in there. Like it would taste like vodka coming out of the other end if you did that. So you want the flavor in there. I'm not quite sure how many they ended up going with for the day drinker and then the Ghost Hill on that. Zach, do you know how many plates are in right now by chance?
Nope.
I think it's
I'm the
six.
wrong person.
I want to say it's 6, but yeah. I want to say it's 6, but at first they were playing around with it, and then we they agreed on that was the flavor that they wanted. But basically with that, it's just a more pure way of making your whiskey. It's pure, it's not a purist way, but there are a lot of people who prefer pot still to column still just because it's less human touch to it when you have a column still. It's a closed system. I mean, yes, they still have to be present there. It's not like it runs itself and, it tastes great on its own. You have to kind of regulate it, do the temperatures, make sure it's like coming in at the right proof and everything. But the pot still, you've got a whole lot more human touch on it. So you're actually pulling out the tail, you're releasing the methane out of there, the caustic stuff on the head, and then you're just keeping the heart at the end of it. Where the column still, we can cycle that through the system on the tail, so we're not so that the head is getting evaporated out of the top, which is better for our distilleries. They can't burn themselves. A lot of them have battle wounds from burning themselves with caustic gas from the pot stills. And then the tail goes back into circulation in that closed system. So it's a more sterile process and it's less wasteful. We're not just dumping water out all over the place. And then whatever is left over that's not usable, we're actually repurposing those grains and back to farmers where it's nutrient rich. So it's kind of a circle of life. And then also, if y'all haven't been out there, we do have our own mill on the backside of our property that we utilize. It's called Barton Spring Mill. So it's about as fresh quality as you can possibly get in the grain world, where most people get theirs sourced in and it's already pre-milled. We get ours as whole kernels and whole grains. And then James mills them down on site on the property. So it's leaving less of a carbon footprint and just a better quality of product going into it, as opposed to quantity, it's quality. We do get our corn from the Panhandle up by Amarillo, and then we get our winter red wheat from Cleburne area. So kind of near where Belcones is, sort of loosely in that area. But yeah, so Texas farmers, we practice the heirloom grain as far as growing goes, and then barley does not grow in Texas, but it would be nice if it did. But yeah, it's 100% Texas as far as it can be. And then anything else on the stills? Oh, it's kind of cool too if you look at the progression of where we came from on our stills. So I lovingly call it tetanus, but it's a very rusted still that Daniel's father-in-law made him. It's in our lounge. So check it out when you go in there. It's in the corner. It looks kind of sad now, but it used to be what we kept the lights on with our rum. So you can imagine, y'all have ever met Nate pulling over 5-gallon buckets of sugar water while it's on fire, and pouring it in there. And it's very explosive. It's terrifying thought to me, but I love the whole story of that they were doing it by hand and slipping all over the place and pouring it in this tiny little hole from a 5-gallon like Home Depot bucket. But it was a humble beginning. And then we've kept all of our stills since then. So we have the 50-gallon, we have the 100-gallon, we have the 500-gallon, and then the continuous columns. There you go. There's the progression of our stills. So it's and we utilize them all. Stills aren't cheap, so we just kind of do experimental things in some of them. Some of them we have running constantly, like the gin ones are running constantly because the gin's getting huge, and that's something that we, like vodka, can make all day, every day if we need to. Bourbon's a little bit different story. We do runs every week on that, as opposed to like every day, like the gin can run every day. Also on that, we do utilize for the heirloom series and stuff, we utilize the 500-gallon pot still, and then we use the column still for the day drinker and the ghost still, the regular ones. So
now, is the Yopon gin, is that limited to the Yopon season?
Yeah.
No, because it's dried. So the Yopon itself is already dried, but it does change in color variation because it is an organic material. So sometimes it'll be super dark. Like this one is really, really dark this one's light. It looked darker, but this one's like really light. And then sometimes it'll almost be as dark as the antique gin, just depending on when we got the Yopon, how long it's been in there. So it's in the vapor still. We do the vapor distillation on that, but it's also we basically macerated at the end too. So it's basically like steeping tea on the back end as well. And that gets that color going again, because when you do it through this still, it's all clear. So we liked that color pop in there. It kind of differentiates it.
Now we bought the last bottles that you guys had there at the distillery. We literally bought the last bottles you guys had. How often is that coming out? What's the release on that look like?
The Yopon?
Yeah.
We run it at the same time as we run the Waterloo 9. I think right this second, because we had a big PO come in for that out of state. We did a big push in Georgia and in California. So I feel like the Waterloo went on production because that's our flagship. We kind of did that in bulk for a while, but we should always have the Yopon. I know out in the like distribution, it's all over the place, but I think they usually run them at the same time. On even on the 100-gallon still, I believe they do them in 50-gallon runs on that. So
yeah, we went out there and there were 4 bottles left in the Rick House bar, and we bought those, and there were 2 at the at Alice's, and we bought the 2 at Alice's. So
it's springtime, and I feel like that, like I said, that green pop, people are just like, or they had the Yo Rita or whatever out there, and they're like, I want to make that at home.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, the Yopon always does really, really, really good in the springtime out at the distillery. And then that's just liquid to lips when people are out there. So be little advocates for us once you try it, because it is definitely different. It's kind of like the antique. It's not like anything you've had before. So
Are y'all gonna age it?
Pardon?
Are y'all gonna age it?
What?
The
Yopon? Not that I know of. Do you know something I don't know?
It's
aged. Okay, he knows something I don't know.
I don't. Rob just gave it to me. I was like, all right, let me try it. I was like,
yeah,
whoa.
He can't taste the rye and pick that out of the lineup, but
so that's pretty cool.
Never
I
let
did
that
not
down.
know we were doing that, but we kind of, that's a practice that we have. We're like, well, let's see what happens when you age it. So I should have assumed that that's what we were doing, because that's kind of what we do. That's our thing. We were just like, oh, barbecue sauce, let's age it. Let's do something. So it's funny. And if y'all haven't tried the barbecue sauce, it's not aged, but it's bourbon barbecue.
Ken?
Do we have a new nickname for Zach? Is it No Rye Zach?
I said it at the end, right before, I'm like, this is rye.
Hey, you can't try as much whiskey as you do and like know all of them. I get hung up on.
I have a terrible tongue.
I know when it's a high rye, but on a low rye, it would have thrown me off too, because it doesn't drink like a rye at all.
Yeah.
So.
I do have to say, I've put the Ghost Hill bourbon in my cranberry sauce the last 2 Christmases. It's delicious.
Old fashioned bread pudding for the win. I dropped that off at everybody's doorstep for Thanksgiving this year, all my friends and family and the distillery. And it went on the menu during Christmas time. It was delicious. I used 2 ounces of the old fashioned. I'd used an ounce in the bread stuff, the batter, and then an ounce in the icing. It was boozy, but delicious. So I replaced my rum bread pudding with the old fashioned bread pudding and just garnished it with orange zest. And I did a Luxardo cherry on mine, but nobody else got a Luxardo cherry because baller on a budget here.
I don't think I've ever had bread pudding.
Yeah.
Oh my
We need
God.
that recipe.
So welcome to the South. We make bread pudding down here. You can turn anything into bread pudding too. I actually did on that one. I used the day old donuts from Krispy Kreme, and then I did the Hawaiian sweet rolls.
Wow.
Pretty sure I was raised on
Mine.
fish and steamed fish.
I make mine with Round Rock
Game
donuts.
changer.
You made yours with what?
I make mine with Round Rock donuts.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd
Yes.
be good.
Any of those glazed donuts or those the sour cream ones too that they have, or those are really good too. I'm on keto, so I'm like, oh, I'm just dreaming about bread pudding now. So no carbs for
2
me.
ounces of whiskey poured on top of the bread pudding before you eat it. It's amazing.
Exactly. All right, guys. Any more questions for me? I'm gonna post this. Let me make sure everything's in it that y'all need. So with this Love Child, you'll set it up just like you do an old fashioned in a stir cup. You can use a beaker, you can use whatever. You can use a shaker if you really want. It doesn't make a difference. I just serve it on a rock with the cherry and a lemon, I guess not zest, but the peel on it. Kind of express the oils on the rim like you would with an old fashioned, but it definitely drinks more like a whiskey sour because it's got the lemon juice in it. So let me press send, and there you go.
So what we'll do also, guys, is we'll take this and we'll copy it and we'll put it on our Facebook page as well. And you'll have access to it there. And again, this video that we're stopping now will also be available on YouTube. hopefully tomorrow by the end of the day. And if you guys don't already know, we do have a YouTube channel.